Hey, what's going on, guys? At the UFC 296 press conference, there were some disgusting remarks made by Colby Covington, and the press conference itself was pretty actually eventful. There was some back and forth between Colby Covington and Tony Ferguson. There was a weird moment between them where they went from like enemies to becoming friends all of a sudden. There were some wild things said by Colby Covington about Wonderboy Thompson. And I did a live stream for this presser because some people asked me to. And then some people were saying they would like a press conference reaction video because this press conference was so eventful. If this is something you want to see more of in the future, let me know down in the comments. So what happened? Well, first of all, I will say before we even get to it, Colby Covington made some disgusting remarks in this press conference. Now, am I going to sit here and clutch my pearls? Not really. I understand that these guys get in the cage and fight, but at the same time, there's just certain lines that I believe shouldn't be crossed. But as crazy as this is going to sound, I actually gained a little bit more respect for Colby Covington after this press conference, and I'm going to explain that later in the video. But basically, it started out, you had them all coming out. Colby Covington's dressed up like somebody from the Civil War, essentially. And he's got the long hair, and Leon Edwards comes out and says, yeah, Colby Covington's showing up dressing like a drag queen, which I thought was kind of funny to start it off. But, the reason I've never been a big fan of these press conferences for the last, 5-10 years or so is I just don't, they're going to fight on Saturday. I'm just not a massive fan of, they did this zinger or that zinger. But it did actually kind of get a little bit interesting. But overall assessment of the press conference, it was just kind of cringy. You had Colby Covington after that. He's asking, are you guys going to side with the Redcoats or the American Revolution? And it kind of fell flat. And there were some people saying the UFC has the crowd muted. And there was some response from the crowd. But if you've watched some of those pressers where you actually have big fan reaction, it wasn't even close to that. You had Colby just saying, who's here to support the American Revolution, which is a kind of interesting angle to promote the fight. But, I feel like it kind of fell flat. Then Colby starts going at Ian Machado, Gary's wife. He says, I want to ask everyone in the crowd, how many of you guys fucked Ian Gary's wife? Which, going after someone's wife, especially when you're literally paying OnlyFans models to hang out with you on Instagram, I just think is a bit disturbing. And then he has a line, that's a lot of names they're going to have to add. I think to his fight kit, I think he's talking about, Gary's going to have to add those people's last names to his fight kit, which makes absolutely no sense. I understand the joke he's trying to make, but that's based on a lie around Ian Gary that he has his wife's ex-husband's last name, which, by the way, guys, that is fact. I know a lot of people spread that as if it's true, but he goes after Ian Gary's wife. I think he went after her one more time later in the press conference, but I feel like the crowd laughed a bit at that, but it wasn't like they went crazy. I felt like a lot of people thought it was kind of funny that he went after Ian Gary. Ian Gary, to attack Ian Machado Gary nowadays is kind of like the hot thing to do. And then after that, you have him talking about Leon. Leon's mumbling and drooling over there and blah, 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 which is crazy to me because if you watch this press conference, I know Leon Edwards doesn't speak that well. And I know Leon Edwards, he has an accent and he's not the best talker. Colby Covington is one of the biggest mumblers and stutterers, and he stumbled over a lot of lines throughout this press conference. So it's just crazy. I know Colby's playing a character, and a lot of people say, Colby's just playing a character. But he stumbles over a lot of these pre-written lines. Then someone asked if Leon was tougher than Usman, considering Leon had 2 wins over Usman and Colby had 2 losses to Usman. And Colby says, no, Leon basically didn't fight him in his prime. And I think he was kind of alluding to, I softened up Usman. That's essentially what Colby Covington was saying. And they started to get into it back and forth about each other's resumes, and which I thought was comical because Colby's saying, who have you beat, Leon? Well, at least Leon has 2 wins over Kamaru Usman. Colby Covington's biggest accomplishment was losing to Kamaru Usman twice. That is his biggest accomplishment. Colby's resume is horrible. I know he won an interim belt back in 1970. Literally the last time Colby won a belt, which he won an interim belt, by the way, against RDA, people in the crowd were wearing the outfit that Colby wore to this press conference. I wish Leon would have said that back to him. There were so many opportunities I felt like Leon could have said, hey man, your biggest accomplishment is losing to the guy I beat twice. And I know Leon did kind of say that, but I just thought it was crazy. They were going back and forth, and Leon's like, you only beat Woodley, and you beat this guy and that guy. You beat Robbie Lawler. We're literally going back in time to discuss Colby's resume because his resume is absolutely horrible. And Colby's the one that brought it up, which was just crazy to me. Then Colby, in the midst of all the resume talk, says, oh, show people the meteor on the back of your head talking about Leon Edwards' bald spot, which is, I guess, mildly funny. I do think it's a little bit funny. I think that's a little bit better than some of the other horrible trash talk he had. And Leon didn't really respond to that. And then Colby is asked about Wonderboy and Shavkat. And who do you think is going to win? I think this was the next thing that was asked after that. But he starts going on kind of a rant about Wonderboy and says Wonderboy and his dad lure kids into a van that has no windows. And essentially what he's implying is that Wonderboy and his dad are, I don't even know if I could say this on a YouTube video, but basically sexual offenders. That's what he's saying. That Wonderboy is that. That's what he's saying. Wonderboy and his dad, because Wonderboy and his dad run like a karate gym or something like that, and they encourage kids to come and participate in it. I think it's a kids karate gym. And Colby Covington was just going off about Wonderboy for no reason, saying Wonderboy shouldn't be on any top 10 list or be in the rankings, but there is a list he should be on where, people are watching, people in the neighborhood can watch out for him, basically, implying that. And then flat out calls him a pedo, says he's a pedo. He said, oh, I'm not calling him that, but he checks all the boxes. Then he literally calls him that right afterwards. Then they asked Tony Ferguson a question. Tony Ferguson gets the biggest crowd reaction of everyone on stage. Then Paddy Pimblett gets asked the question, gets booed more than anyone on the stage. Then it's Colby being asked. Okay, this is when Colby was asked about Shavkat and Wonderboy. I have a couple notes here because I try to remember everything that happened, or at least the important things. He was asked about Shavkat and Wonderboy, and Colby said, I don't care who's fighting on my prelims. I'm the star of the show. And that's when Tony Ferguson interjects and says, I'm the biggest star on this pay-per-view card. And then there's some back and forth. And this was actually crazy back and forth between Colby and Tony, because Tony's like, F you, I'm more American than you. And then Colby says, don't go out there and lose 7 fights in a row. Tony is just not in a position to be talking trash, even though he had some good lines, but just saying, you got flatlined by Chandler, and when are you going to wake up? And Colby's kind of hitting him back with lines like that. But Tony Ferguson is like, you're in my weight class, which they're not even in each other's weight class. I know Tony has fought at 170 before. So Tony's just kind of saying weird things. And then, this was the craziest thing. When Tony said to Colby, get Trump's sack out of your mouth, that actually hit Colby pretty hard. And then Colby started lashing out and literally said to him, this was the craziest thing I ever seen in my life. I cannot believe Colby went this far. He said, you still seeing ghosts in your wallpaper? You going to kidnap your kids again? And what he's referring to is Tony had like a manic episode years ago where, I don't know if he was off medication. I don't know what fully went behind it, but this is in a police report where Tony Ferguson went crazy and started ripping out drywall in his house and said there was demons behind the walls. And then apparently he took his kids, and the ex-wife or wife called the cops on him. So Colby took it there. And then Tony Ferguson like almost doesn't respond and then says, I'm giving you a compliment. And then Colby's like, I'm rooting for you as well. And then they're like, yeah, Team America. And they just start screaming like, woo. And it was just a bizarre moment because they were really going back and forth. And Colby's like, you lost 7 fights in a row, and you got, you just woke up from getting knocked out by Michael Chandler. The next thing you know, they're screaming America. And then somebody asked Colby, Usman said you're the biggest straw in the welterweight division. And Colby goes on to say, of course, look at the checks Usman got for me, the pay-per-view checks and blah, blah, blah. And let me just say, I'm not 100% sure on this. I don't think that's what Usman said. I think Usman said Colby's a bigger draw than Leon, because the facts do not represent Colby's the biggest draw in the division. Maybe now, I guess, now that Jorge Masvidal is gone. But if you look at the fights, Usman versus Masvidal or Usman versus Colby, which pay-per-view sold the most? It was Usman versus Masvidal. So Colby could be the second biggest draw, but I guess if you count the fact that Masvidal is now retired, maybe Usman did say that. But in terms of Usman's fights, he sold more against Masvidal than he sold against when he fought Colby. But of course, Colby's like, that's great, and I'm a massive draw, and Leon Edwards isn't a draw at all, and nobody cares about Leon Edwards, and I'm the A side and stuff like that. And then that's when it starts to get serious, because Leon says, oh yeah, that's why he knocked you out, talking about Usman finishing him at UFC 245 in the 5th round. And then of course Usman beat him again via decision. And Colby, you could tell Colby got annoyed by this. So that was a good remark by Leon Edwards. But then Colby says the worst line of the entire press conference in a multitude of ways, because he says, I'm going to take you to a place you've never been before. I'm going to take you to the 7th layer of hair. And then he says hell. He actually meant 7th layer of hell. and he actually said hair instead. He comes in with these pre-written lines, and it's just so corny. And once he stumbles over that line, he then says, "We can say hello to your dad while we're there." Leon Edwards' dad was murdered. So that's pretty disgusting. That's pretty reprehensible. And immediately Leon Edwards picks up, I think it's a Monster energy drink or something along those lines, and throws it right at Colby before he could even really react. But Colby does get his arm up, and I think it kind of hit him in the arm rib area. And then they kind of stand up, and they're kind of talking back and forth. And Leon actually looks legitimately pissed and then doesn't say much for a while. But to kind of harp on that line a little bit, I really think somebody bringing up somebody else's dead parent is disgusting. It's a piece of shit move. It's reprehensible. It's abhorrent. And I feel like a lot of people are going to side with me on that and say, you know what, Colby did take it too far, even the Colby sycophants. But I have seen some Colby sycophants saying, well, Leon's dad was part of a gang. Like, that defends making fun of somebody's dead parent who was literally murdered. Making fun of him all in the promotion of a fight. It's just, there's some things that can be said and there's some things that can't. And I just think bringing in somebody's family, especially talking about their parent, and then it's because you fumble over a line. And I wonder if he was like flustered because he fumbled over his line. And then he just kind of spit that out, because that's way too far. That's way too far. And Leon threw something at him, and I thought Leon might storm off. I thought Leon might leave. He did not leave. Eventually he sat back down. But I will say this, and this is going to be the craziest thing I've ever said to you guys. I gained a little bit of respect for Colby in this press conference, because his willingness to talk shit, and I know we've kind of known this for a while. He's made some reprehensible comments before, but his dedication to just crossing the line and just going over the line, no matter what it may be, I do have a little bit of respect for that. You know, even as disgusting as this is, like the fact that he's willing to go out there and, you know what, I want to build my character. I want to, come off as, as egregious as possible. I want to get as much attention as possible, because that clip of Leon Edwards throwing that bottle at him is going to be replayed over and over and over again. And people are going to talk about, how could Colby say this? But there are some people defending it. And I can't believe, like, I get it if you want to say, okay, I'm not going to clutch my pearls over it. But at the same time, that's way too far. And these are the same people, a lot of the same people. I can't say it's all. I hate, sometimes I generalize, and I don't mean like fully everyone. When I say that, it's a bit of an exaggeration. But a lot of the same people who will defend Colby because they love Colby's WWE act so much are the same people saying that Ian Machado Gary took it too far by wearing Jeff Neal's mugshot on his shirt. And I just think that's crazy. I just think that's absolutely crazy. And, of course it's not, I don't think it's going to be the majority in this case. I haven't really gauged full reaction yet. I kind of seen a little bit on Twitter, a little bit in my live chat at the time. But to be honest, I think it's reprehensible. And if I'm Leon Edwards, I'm looking for revenge. And Leon Edwards kind of hints to that later in the presser. What else happens in this presser? Colby goes on to say, I'm going to show up and put a show on for the fans. You'll love what I do in the cage Saturday night, which is crazy. If I was Leon was kind of silent at this point. After kind of the interaction, Leon didn't say much after throwing the Monster energy. But what I thought was so funny about Colby saying, I'm going to put on a show Saturday night. When has Colby ever been in exciting fights outside of the fights against Kamaru Usman? And I'm not talking about for me personally, because I find Colby relatively exciting, but aesthetically pleasing, it's not your most fan-friendly fight style. He goes out there and he wet blankets guys. He doesn't have a lot of power. He just kind of, looks for takedowns and looks to suffocate you. Then somebody asked Colby about his obsession with Trump, and he just says, oh, Leon Edwards isn't, he doesn't know anybody famous, and just Colby, going off with more cringy, corny lines. At one point, he started going off about 007, go fuck yourself, and spouting a bunch of political nonsense, and it literally fell so flat. It was so cringy. It was just dead silence in the arena. Nobody picked up on it. Then he starts, I think he went at Ian Gary again and say, because some media member said, what was the lesson you were going to teach Ian Machado Gary at the presser? And Colby said, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. And the crowd was just dead silence. And maybe the UFC's muting the crowd, but it was just completely dead silence. And you heard the crowd really kind of go off for Tony Ferguson. Then after that, somebody asked Leon, this was really the only other thing Leon kind of said after the altercation type thing, is it more personal for you now? And Leon said, no, it's not really personal, but I hope he keeps the same energy backstage. With who knows, there could be something behind the scenes now between Leon and Colby, because if Leon Edwards is really thinking, this motherfucker just talked about my dead father, don't be surprised if he tries to catch him in the hotel. We've seen plenty of things going on behind the scenes. We've recently seen Bobby Green and Arman Saryukian kind of get into altercation. And then they asked Leon also about, what does Colby do for your resume? And Leon says, you know what? He's trading wins and losses in his last few fights. This really doesn't do much for me. It just adds another name to my resume. Colby says, you poked a guy and it ended up being a no contest that ends your win streak, which is crazy to even compare Colby's win streak of one fight to Leon's long win streak, which he hasn't lost in how many years? His last loss was like 2016, 2017. I don't even remember at this point. Then somebody asked Paddy if he's scared of Tony, and then that's basically when Tony and Paddy started to get into it. And Tony said something that I didn't even think Tony realized. Tony basically said to Paddy, you have nothing to gain here. And that's true. Paddy has nothing to gain here other than maybe a little bit of notoriety by beating a name like Tony Ferguson on the card, because win or lose, Paddy earns nothing. If he wins, everyone's going to say Tony's a dead corpse. If he loses, he lost to the dead corpse of Tony Ferguson. So it's just crazy. And then kind of, it was like Tony interrupting Paddy because they were respectful, but then they started going back and forth. And Paddy calls him a name. And then Tony says, shut up, your own country doesn't even like you, which actually was a decent line. And then Paddy just goes off about, oh, I'm going to sleep you on Saturday night. And Tony says, oh, you can make me, shut up, bitch, and make me a cup of tea. And there was just some back and forth. You know, Tony, he's just being Tony. He's kind of weird. But to be honest, Tony, I didn't realize he even knew. Paddy has nothing to gain because Tony's on this long losing streak. I almost said winning streak. I think Tony wants to match that 12-fight winning streak with a 12-fight losing streak. So overall, you didn't really hear that much from Wonderboy. Wonderboy didn't say that much back to Colby. Shavkat didn't really say all that much. One key takeaway is, Colby didn't say anything to Shavkat. The reason Colby's not going to say anything to Shavkat for multiple reasons is he doesn't want to have anything that can be promoted into a super fight. Or not a super fight, a future fight. I don't know why I said super fight there. He does not want to fight Shavkat at all. Absolutely not. But that was pretty much the presser. Now, what could come out of this presser? Could Leon go after Colby in the hotel? I think he could, and I think he would have every right to. And I think a lot of people would defend Leon for doing that. But imagine Leon catches him in the hotel lobby or hotel hallway or an elevator, and let's say he punches him in the face, even if he only gets one shot off before someone breaks it up, could open a massive cut. Next thing you know, the fight's canceled. To be honest, I think it would be hilarious if Leon called him. To be honest, I'm already worried about the fight getting canceled. Colby Covington got hit with a bottle. He may call the police. When he gets assaulted for his words, for talking crap, he usually calls the police. So who knows? He might call the police and report Leon Edwards for throwing that bottle at him. And next thing you know, Leon Edwards is getting arrested and going to jail. But I just think it's disgusting of Colby to bring up somebody's dead parent. And he has a history of doing stuff like this. He made fun of Matt Hughes, who had a traumatic brain injury for getting into a horrible accident. He made fun of one of Kamaru Usman's coaches who died. And I don't remember the exact remark that he made, but he was making remarks about that. So it doesn't surprise me. And I do respect the way he's willing to keep crossing that line. I 100% respect that. But at the same time, I don't respect somebody who's going to talk this way. And then when you get caught outside, you're going to call the police. If you're going to talk this way, if you're going to insult people this way, whether it's to build a fight or not, you better be prepared to face repercussions outside of the cage and not call the police, And that's what he did against Jorge Masvidal. Brought his family into it. I know people say he didn't talk about his kids. He talked about his relationship with his kids, which is reprehensible. So Colby could end up paying for this at some point in time. Leon Edwards could go after him later. There could be, I don't know. There could be a million different things. Maybe Leon Edwards doesn't take it that seriously, but I do wonder, a lot of people are going to speculate, could Colby have gotten under Leon Edwards' skin? And could it affect the fight? And that's what I care to talk about the most. And the answer is it's possible, but with Colby's fighting style, it's not very likely. If Colby had unbelievable KO power, then I could say this could have an effect because maybe Leon gets more aggressive and gets clipped. Colby doesn't really have KO power. Could he clip Leon and put him asleep? Maybe. But how likely is that? When's the last time Colby got a legitimate TKO? I think he has like one in the UFC ever, and it wasn't really like he caught someone with a big shot and put him to sleep. So even if Leon does decide to come out and be more aggressive, I don't think he's going to get clipped and KO'd. If anything, it cost him being taken down. But Leon Edwards has decent takedown defense, and Colby really only gets takedowns up against the fence when he's chaining them together. It's not like he's getting them out in the open and taking them down in the center of the cage. So I don't know if it's really going to have an effect. Sometimes getting under someone's skin can have good effects for you, or it can have negative effects. It all depends how that fighter reacts to that. Because look what Conor did to Khabib. Conor kind of got under Khabib's skin a little bit, and look what Khabib went out there and did at UFC 229. Absolutely mauled and destroyed him. So this could awaken an extra sense of urgency for Leon Edwards. And some people thrive under that pressure. Some people, it can have a massive effect and can be detrimental to them. But some people thrive under that motivation. They want that motivation. So this could end up coming back to haunt Colby Covington, getting under Leon Edwards' skin, but it could help him out. We won't know until Saturday, and even then, it'll still be super speculative. Depending on how the fight goes down, you really won't be able to know if it truly had an effect on him unless he comes out and says something. But other than that, it's basically Colby going after Ian Gary a couple times, Colby going after Tony and then becoming friends afterwards, and Colby saying reprehensible things about Leon Edwards' dad, which if Leon Edwards catches him outside the cage and sucker punches him and knocks his teeth down his throat and the fight gets canceled, I'll be a Leon Edwards fan for life. I know people will be disappointed, and it's crazy to hear me say that, talking about a main event getting canceled. But when you talk that way, it deserves repercussions. I think for the most part, people should be able to say whatever they want, and they have the freedom to say whatever they want. But that doesn't mean freedom from consequences when you cross the line and you take it too far. I'm all for some trash talk and some banter, but bringing in someone's family, bringing in someone's wife, bringing in someone's dead parent, I just think it's disgusting. And then on top of that, calling Wonderboy, an offender, that is crazy to me. What has Wonderboy ever done? What has Wonderboy ever done? And then also the fact that Colby's going after everyone but Shavkat. He doesn't want any video clip that can promote a Colby Shavkat fight if Colby wins this title. That's what he's doing there. He's avoiding any potential clip to promote a future fight because he doesn't want that fight. Colby would retire before he fought Shavkat. Let's just put it that way. But overall, I do think it was a semi-entertaining press conference. I think Colby was just your typical cringy Colby who has these pre-written lines. He came in with all these scripted lines. And I wonder, he's so worried about talking crap about everyone on stage. I'm wondering if he's not focusing on the fight enough. He's been out for 2 years. He hasn't been fighting the best competition or hasn't been beating the best competition. I mean, when's the last time he has a good win? I can't even think of it off the top of my head. His resume is so bad. So this could come back, and it could be Colby's worried too much about his trash talk and not worried about the task in front of him, which is Leon Edwards. But we'll find out Saturday night. I will be live streaming for the event on Saturday, so make sure to join me. Let me know what you guys think about a video like this every once in a while for a big press conference. I would like to know down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.